welcome back to another episode of Buffalo Happy Hour. Mike, what's going on?
Oh, Derek, a lot. It's been a production, but we're here. We're ready. We're established. We got everything lined up. So quick shout out to Addie's. Thank you so much for the connection. We are actually not at Addie's. We are off site. We are working with a fantastic brand and a company that provides a lot of good juice specifically to our area. So we'll dive into all things you guys, your experience, and then we'll go down the lineup, of course, and then hopefully in 6 hours we're good to go from there. So you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. My name is Mario Delgado. I found that loophole in life where somebody pays you to drink, which is a fantastic life hack.
Cheers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, an expense account. I mean, like, who knew? It's like I'm not a responsible adult. Like, just no booze. I am very lucky to work for a company called Monsieur Touton. It's been a family-owned wine company for 40 years, and they've been crushing it with Bordeaux. His family's been there for centuries, and then he basically brought everything to the U.S. and had, built a really big name for himself, like from a rolling bag on the sidewalk to having 3/4 of a building in Midtown Manhattan.
Wow.
So I am honored. And he has a lot of foresight, even though he's an older gentleman, knowing that spirits is on the horizon. Spirits has outsold wine the last 2 years globally. And, congratulations, we all got drinking problems. Awesome. It's job security for me, so I don't mind. But it is where the world is going. So whether it was COVID and we were a little depressed, we need a little bit something stronger, or we realized the versatility of what spirits had to offer, it made sense and it clicked with people. And they're a little bit more decisive and more educated in what they want to buy. Luckily for me, I was working for a small craft distillery in New Jersey. Shout out to All Points West Distillery. That's where I got my chops. There's only 5 of us, so we did everything. We ground up the grain, we fermented, we did our mash, we distilled, we bottled, we labeled every single bottle, we packed it. And with my orders, 85% of the orders that I took was in the trunk of my car. I eventually fell in love with it. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know that, whiskey is just beer with a couple more steps, or that cognac is just like the distilled version of wine. And then I was like, but why don't I know this? And I realized that there are companies out there, they feel like if they keep you ignorant, you'll just keep buying the same things. And that happened in wine. In the 80s to 2000, it used to be, is it a red wine or a white wine? Then it became sweet or dry, and now is it biodynamic? Is this wine, like vegan? And it's like, it's grapes. What do you mean it's not vegan? And so those are things you learn, but that took 20 years.
Sure.
And then now you look at craft beer. Craft beer used to be like, is it a light beer or a dark beer? And then it's like, well, I want a lager, I want an ale. And then now it's like, is this a sour kettle, M&M, smoothie, lactose rich? And that's fine, but it took from 2000 to 2020. Spirits, I thought was just really fascinating, and I fell in love with the process because the guy that I worked for at All Points West was a genius. And I'm like, I need to learn more because people don't know. And so I'm like, if I educate myself, I can educate them. And now spirits, used to be just like a gin is a gin is a gin, and vodka is what you drink when you want to black out on club soda. And now it's like there's so much more to it, and the consumer is ready to spend that money and be educated and learn more. But the brands aren't doing their due diligence. They're just focusing on celebrities and they're focusing on advertising, and they hope you're a dog lover. That's it. Where I think there's so much more to that, and distilling has existed basically as we know it for spirits, let's say since the 1500s. So it's been part of our history. Our livers have grown 3 times since we become Homo sapiens, because beer and wine, nowadays we have them, from 4% up to about 16, 17%, but that's natural fermentation. That happens without human influence. Spirits, we typically have them at 40% ABV. Well, now you're going almost 5 times as much. So our livers are growing to try to keep up with it.
I just love that livers have fermented, just like the juice that we're putting through them. Like that's amazing. Dilation is one of the greatest things to ever exist, because now we're just able to enjoy so many different options. And it's generational. So in 2 generations, my grandkids, maybe their livers are going to be bigger.
Yeah.
They have to be.
We hope so. We're practicing now for the future, really. We're worrying about tomorrow's children.
Exactly.
That's why we
what
drink
we're
so
doing.
much today.
It's all because of R&D and research.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, we're just doing the betterment of humanity.
Yeah, your brain and your liver have the most amount of blood of any organs in your body. If 30% of your liver stays behind after 70% gets cut off, it regrows. We are built to consume alcohol. But there are 3 species on the planet Earth that actually consume fermented beverages, and their bodies can handle it. Ethanol is still a poison at the end of the day, but we work as filters. So there's like these bonobo apes in like India. There's this like spider monkey in Madagascar, and there's humans. Of those 3, only one of them is telling their life story to the Uber driver. Like humans have served a special place with alcohol, and we've incorporated it. And it's one of the very first places that women were allowed to have a business, whether it's with beer or wine. Veuve Clicquot, that's the widow Clicquot. So you're a widow, you can't make money, you make wine or champagne. There's a historical significance to that, and it plays a role in all of our communities. And it basically wasn't until we were stopped being hunters and gatherers. We used to eat all the mushy fruit off the forest floor, and we'd be like, this is pretty good. Like, I kind of want to fight that caveman. Like, I'm having a good time. And so we're like, wait, if we stop and we have extra grains, we can make beer. Or if we stop and we grow vines and we can have grapes, we can have wine. So then it became something more, and then we started building communities. When you talk about distillation and higher ABV, distillation doesn't create alcohol, it concentrates alcohol. So the goal is, okay, I have beer, it's gonna go bad. If I distill it, I make whiskey. I have wine, it's gonna go bad, I distill it, I have brandy. Or I have too much agave. Or if I have too much sugarcane, then you have your tequila and your rum. So it's been a part of our communities, and that's also how we paid our bills.
Sure.
But if you have something like grains that are going to go bad or the rats are going to eat it, distillation makes way more sense. So to answer my question, I'm passionate about spirits, and that's why I got into this industry, and I work for Monsieur Touton. So that is a short answer. Sorry, guys, for the other 40 minutes I left out of this description.
One of the first things you said was that the spirits industry has taken over the wine industry, and now it's outselling it for the past 2 years. What in the spirits is leading that charge? Is it vodka? Is it gin? Is it whiskey?
Go ahead.
Tequila?
Tequila is going to be one of the first things to outsell vodka in a very long time. Vodka, it gets a bad rap, but vodka is our bridge, right? I wanna dance tonight on club soda or ginger ale or cranberry juice. I'm adding vodka to it. I'm not going to add Johnny Walker Blue. I'm not going to add like an añejo tequila. I'm going to do something that's really affordable, because vodka is allowed to be any fermentable item distilled to 95% and then filtered and diluted. So you can have grape, grain, potato, you can have sugar, you can have any type of neutral distillate. But the thing is, you just don't, they said it's the same effect of like olives and blue cheese. If you're in that environment and you get exposed to it, you enjoy it. And so no one just likes scotch. No one just starts liking bourbon out of the blue. Maybe it's your friends or your family that get into it. And vodka is that bridge where it's like, I like how alcohol makes me feel, but I don't like the taste of alcohol yet. Then you say, okay, I add it to my juices, I add it to my sodas. And then you get more of a kind of, you get more of a lifespan. And then eventually you say, oh, they're out of vodka? Well, maybe I'll try gin. Oh, okay. Oh, well, I like gin. Let me start trying whiskey. And then all of a sudden in 10, 15, 20, 30 years, you'll find yourself like, oh, if it's not a 20-year-old single malt scotch, I'm not drinking it. And so, that's how snobs are born. It starts with vodka, bridging the gap, but it's losing its grounding to tequila. Unfortunately, the way the tequila industry works, agave plants, they take years to grow. What they do is they take the rhizome and they make a copy. What you really need to do is that let the agave plant mature, it cross-pollinates, and then it has the immunity to hold up to any diseases. We're one bad disease from losing all of our Weber Blue agave in Mexico. But the thing is, fun fact, the agave plant is in the asparagus family. So when it matures, it creates a big, massive 20-foot stalk of asparagus. Bats come in, so not bees like we know with plants here. Bats are the ones that cross-pollinate the agave. But you know what happens? If it matures, all the sugars get used up by the stalk, and that means I can't ferment and distill it and make a couple extra bucks on my tequila. So everyone does the copy, and also it's supposed to mature to about 6 to 8 years. They keep, doing it at 4 to 5 to 6 years. So that's almost like taking an 11-year-old, slapping on a helmet and say, go to battle. So they're making copies of really immune, weak, and very young agaves. It's not sustainable. I mean, I'm willing to say on record, like 10 to 15 years from now, if we have a Añejo tequila, I'd be totally shocked. That's why mezcal works so much better. You're allowed to use any type of agave that grows within the region. And there's Bacanora and Raicilla, and Sotol uses the Weatherspoon plant, which is like agave adjacent, and so that's fine. But I had heard rumors that with the tequila, they're willing to go different than Weber or Blue just so they have inventory of agave to distill.
Sure. Why do you think that transition has happened from vodka to tequila? Is it because of it looks similar, or is it price point?
So the real answer that I hate to admit is that during COVID, people thought that tequila was more of a curative agent than other spirits.
Oh, okay.
So that is a rumor that I'd heard at every single liquor store I went to. I've heard it from people directly, and they're like, no, like you can't get COVID if you drink tequila. Like, you know, like George Clooney, if you said that, God bless you, because it just drove numbers up like crazy. Tequila has been around since like World War II. They actually used to use it as a ration. And then the bigger brands, of course, kept their consumers ignorant. But now we have premium tequilas. We have the Clase Azul, Casa Dragones. It's not. I haven't heard anybody say the word Cuervo in about 5 years. And so people are getting elevated, spending a little bit more money. Legislation has changed to make it a little bit easier on some things. Who would know the Mexican government would be corrupt? I mean, but there's a lot more accessibility. Legislation's more favorable. Production's much easier. And, you know, as soon as one person's making $5, there's somebody following them trying to make 10.
Yeah.
So there's more exposure, there's more advertising dollars going towards it, and there's less of a stigma. So it used to be like, oh, like I just want to black out tonight. Okay, let's line up 10 tequila shots. That's not the case anymore because no one can afford it nowadays. But it's just the characteristic has changed. Celebrities is another big thing too.
That's got to be a massive impact on the entire industry because nobody thought The Rock was going to come up with a brand or, you know, name the other actors. It's just
you have Kevin Hart, you have George Clooney, you have the guys from Breaking Bad. So you have
didn't Ryan Reynolds have one?
He did the aviation gin.
Oh, that's right. It was a gin.
And then they had Avion, which is a fake tequila from Entourage that they made into a real tequila, and it's just wild. But that's the problem. When you don't have education, you look for guidance. And well, we're Americans. We covered celebrity, so we're gonna follow celebrities with whatever they do. And that's the case. You know, if people really knew what was going on, they probably wouldn't love half the stuff. Kendall Jenner's another one. So you can name 15 celebrities with that. How many vodka celebrities do you know?
I don't really know a lot of Russian celebrities.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
And you know what? You haven't heard a lot from them in the last year. So
They were a little busy.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think that the celebrity endorsement of products is ruining the industry or is it helping the industry? What's your perception on that? Because from a whiskey standpoint, most of the celebrity products are not very good because they put their name behind something. They don't necessarily know how it's made, and they just kind of help a company. What are your thoughts?
You know what? Everybody needs a little bit of help, but you can't deny that the money is there.
Sure.
So once that stops working, you're there. Like, remember, we talked about wine. Well, back in the day, it used to be Coppola wines and Kim Crawford wines, and it used to be Greg Norman, and all these celebrities that backed the wineries and stuff like that, and they were huge. You don't hear that any day because now people are asking the questions. Is it biodynamic? Is it vegan? Is this a natural wine? What kind of grape varietal? Oh, actually, you're bringing grapes from Australia here to California to press them and make your wine. So then people are like, no, I don't want to drink that. It's when that celebrity stops working, it'll stop happening. And of course, cheap juice is cheap to make. So you spend your money on the celebrity, and that's why those products don't taste good.
Sure.
If a celebrity had to back up a brand, mind you, there are good brands that have good celebrities. This is not a catch-all. But if it's sold on its own, you wouldn't need a celebrity. That's my only argument. But again, some celebrities actually do really support and really behind their brands, and those are fantastic. And like, as much as like Casamigos has the reputation it has, George Clooney built a brand, and people are drinking it. A bad tequila only gets you so far, just like a bad whiskey will only get you so far. It's like, oh, great, it's this so-and-so guy from this TV show. This isn't good. I'm not buying it again, but at least I tried it. It's not where it helps those people that have the deep pockets already. It doesn't really help the craft brands. The craft brands are never going to get a celebrity. Ryan Reynolds is never going to knock on my door and be like, oh, you have a gin no one's heard of? Awesome, I'm going to take that. Those people are already multi-million companies bringing in other multi-millionaires to sell to broke people. I don't know. Education's where it really has to be, and we're not there yet. We're still that 17, 15 years away. We're on the horizon, and it's going to get there. And I think that's going to meter out some of the snobbery that goes into whiskey that I see a lot of days. There's been whiskey groups that I've been part of, and these guys just buy labels. You don't know. I get it. You don't have to know the mash bill or the barrel that's used or whatever, but like, be passionate about what you're drinking. As much as I love what I do, it's poison, right? Too much of it, you'd be like, like you're gone. I know I'm a poison salesman, but I'm just saying, understand and appreciate the poison you are having, the role it plays for yourself or your community. Because people always ask me, Mario, what's your favorite whiskey or what's your favorite wine? It's the one I can afford.
Sure.
So to be like, I just dropped $750 and I'm never going to open it. The amount of stories of husbands have a collection, they covet them, they never drink them, they pass away, and then the wife is like, well, I need to move into a smaller house, and they give away these collections.
Right.
They don't care. You can't take it with you. And I learned that lesson from, who is the guy? From Buffalo Trace. They have this fantastic brand ambassador. Or is it Jim Beam? And his father got to have something that he made as a master distiller that was like 30 years old. And he's like, let's save it for a special occasion, Dad. And he's like, no, let's drink it tonight. And they finished basically the whole bottle in one night. The dad passed away 2 months later. And it's like, if you don't appreciate those moments, this is time captured, and it will last you way longer than we exist. Enjoy it.
Right.
To purposely go out and take things off the market because you're coveting them. I mean, it's like being a mythical dragon. It's like you're sitting on your pile, but everybody hates your guts, you know? It's like share and drink. You can't, bravo to you if you can, but you can't finish that whole bottle by yourself.
Sure.
Share it with your friends and family and figure out about it what makes it special. I don't need a celebrity to tell me that.
Now, speaking on stories and bottles specifically, every single one of these bottles on this table has a ridiculous story.
Oh yeah, I try to pull out the big guns as much as I can. We have a really versatile spirits portfolio, and something that I've been working on and growing on with myself and the rest of my teammates. Shout out to Barbara, Marsha, and Lee. We all really work together to bring in some special stuff.
What is that like to bring something in?
It's a challenge, mind you. Like I said, this is a wine company that we've had for 40 years. So not everybody's on board when I'm like, hey, I got something that can compete with chartreuse. And they're like, what? They don't even know what chartreuse is. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not getting my palate that I wanted. Also, people just send me stuff all the time in the office. And I'm like, I need pricing. Because it's like, if somebody can't afford it, I can't sell it. So I have to focus on what the strengths and weaknesses are of the teams in 9 different states that we sell spirits. Sampling, pricing, it doesn't make sense. It's like, would I buy it? Because if it's not something I would buy, how am I going to convince somebody that they should spend their money on it too? Mm-hmm. It's you don't want to have that kind of defeatist attitude. So everything here has a really great story, really great packaging, and the thing is, there's no money behind it. There's no Instagram posts. There's the websites. They exist, but there's no celebrities, and so it's really up to me to make them work. But they work on their own legs, and I'm just very lucky to bring stuff in. Sometimes you bring in stuff that's winners. Sometimes you don't. Yeah. Winners so far, knock on wood.
So you said the owner was a winery, right? He owned a winery before?
For which brand? Oh, Touton?
Yeah.
Oh, no, he just focuses on Bordeaux wines.
Okay.
His father used to be like, they have these like wine brokers in Bordeaux, and it's like very tight-knit, like mafioso kind of stuff. I don't know why. The dirty world of wine, I'm sorry. And he left that behind to start his own business as an importer in the U.S.
So did he start with cognac or what did he start with?
Yeah, so he did exclusively wine, and then he just did some of the wine houses we have in our portfolio were cognac houses as well. So like I don't have a bottle here, but Tesseron, they're part of the Punta Cana and Pimray houses of wine. Incredible juice. They used to sell their product to, to Hennessy and Remy and Martell. And they actually survived World War II by keeping all their cognac behind a fake wall in a cave. Some of those brands in France were like, oh, just, it's like if you give a mouse a cookie. Like, I'll just give a Nazi cognac and it'll leave me alone. Not the case. They just kept drinking tons of champagne and tons of cognac, and they never went away. So they survived that. They've been around since late 1800s. And their Paradiso, where they keep their older distillate, is actually in a UNESCO World Protected Site. It's a 14th century crypt. So yeah,
That's
so
sweet.
So for the winter special, we'll focus on that stuff for the other podcast.
Sounds good.
If I'm welcome back,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I just have a feeling there's going to be multiple rounds.
Oh,
yeah.
So the two on the end, those are vermouths?
These are vermouths. People always ask me what the hell is vermouth. It is a fortified aromatized wine.
Okay.
Fortified meaning it's not on its own bones. One is 18%, the other 17.5. They don't ferment to that level. They pitch in basically a neutral spirit. because even though it's wine based and you're carrying a lot of aromatics, you need that distillate to give you more shelf life. Because that means if I opened it up now, by tonight it'll be done.
Now, I learned this recently. Vermouth is generally good post-opening for a month, and it has to be refrigerated after you open it.
I'm a big advocate of refrigerating your vermouth.
Yeah. Does it last longer than a month? Because I'm trying to like hammer Manhattans because I'm terrified that I'm just gonna like lose the vermouth.
Well, I'm not against you hammering Manhattans.
Well,
that's
of
a different
course
argument. Yeah. So it depends on the ABV. So a lot of your bigger houses sit around 14 to 16%. Less ABV, less shelf life. 17% is that sweet spot where you get a little bit longer. Something on this level, like if you found another brand that was at 17, 18%, I would say you could probably have it open, unrefrigerated for 3 months. And I'm not lying. I've done it myself. Refrigerated, it'll last a lot longer, 5 months, 6 months. But before, what I used to do was I'd go to liquor stores and get the 50 mLs or the 375s and use those because I didn't want them to go bad either.
Sure.
The way the aromatics work in a distillation or in anything you're dealing with, the aroma is the softest molecule in there. It's the most volatile, which means that as time goes on, it evaporates quicker than the rest of what's in there. And the more of that ingredient you have, the more of those aroma molecules, the longer it'll last. But things that are lighter, they'll just fade with time. And that'll happen to your gins and plenty of other stuff.
What classification is that in? Is that still considered a spirit?
It is not. Yeah, it's just fortified
Okay, so
wine,
it's considered
or aromatized
fortified.
wine.
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
So you have some other things in that category, like a Lillet Blanc, or besides other vermouths, kind of like port and stuff like that. But you don't have the aromatized, which is another important factor. So with this brand specifically, it's called Nova de Dante or Nine de Dante. It's based off of Dante Alighieri's Inferno. So we have the 9 layers of hell, 9 circles of Purgatorio, and they actually have intention with the botanicals on the back of them. There's 27 in each, and they're different for both. But if there is a botanical that was used as a contraceptive, it goes under lust. If there's a botanical that overgrows a garden, it goes under envy. So the things behind it are really intentional. But there's a focus on wine. So they say that Piedmont is the home of vermouth. Vermouth fell out of favor after World War II because Winston Churchill was pissed at the Italians. So he says, my addition of vermouth to my martini is having a sunlight hit a bottle of vermouth, blah, 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 blah. Or real men drink dry martinis. That was basically the concept to go against the Italians. Now it's coming back into favor, but in between we had vermouth companies that just brought in the cheapest wine possible with the minimum amount of botanicals just to get it done, just to have something on the shelf.
Sure.
So besides what this brand is here, there's plenty of other revivals, especially on a local level. And it's gorgeous to see because, again, historical significance. Of course, vermouth started off as like a curative. Like gentian root, which is typically used in bitter things like a Campari, like a vermouth, was actually from monks eating fatty meats. So they would have lamb and they'd have sheep, and their body needs to break it down. So you'd start with a vermouth or an aperitivo for appetizer. It builds up the bile in your system, and that means it's easier for your body to break down that lamb or that sheep or all those fatty meats. Makes it easier for your body to break down. Just like we have digestivos, and those are sweet. Carbohydrates actually trigger your digestive system after a meal, so you can start digesting quicker. So they serve a purpose. You want to start your meal with something bitter, like a vermouth or an aperitivo, like Campari, Aperol, all that stuff. And you want to finish with something sweet, like a Cynar or a Bailey's or a Frangelico, because that will trigger your digestive system to pull it right through. There is, like I said, an intentional historical significance. Of course, we've totally forgotten about this. We're like, this is boom boom juice, and it makes us like want to party. And I think we're getting really realistic about like, what am I putting into my body? What purpose does it serve? And also, does it taste good?
Sure.
Instead of just getting the job done, which I think is a lot of people have done. So let's start with this. I'm going to have you guys try it. This is the extra dry, so no sugar added, 27 botanicals, and they use 100% Arnase DOC wine from the Piedmont area. It's the ex-master blender from Carpano, another guy named Mario, so I love him. He worked there for decades, almost like 2 to 3 decades. But again, when you're at Carpano, you have to make their 100-year-old recipe. This is him doing his own thing, flexing his own muscles, being able to have the accessibility that he has. So, white's going to be a lighter style, so I'm going to have you guys... Oh, put it right into this. Oh, I get a glass too?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Oh, wow.
You're getting hammered. Our,
there you
our
go.
livers
Okay.
are getting larger tonight.
God, I didn't know how to drink my own snake oil.
Your own snake oil.
So yeah, good aromatics. A lot of the things that I pull from it are the thyme and the sage in there,
Oh, yeah.
which you never see in anything
Definitely.
else. But it also smells just like a really funky glass of wine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cheers, guys, to the
Cheers.
first
Thank you.
round. We don't have to cheers every
Cheers.
time, but at least this one. And we're talking about, I mean, just like this with an ice cube. This is room temperature vermouth that's already been opened, and this has been open for about 5-6 days.
It's
Very candied.
It's so fresh.
Yeah,
It's really pure.
it's all the wine sweetness coming through. Nothing is added.
That's crazy because to me this is very sweet.
Yeah, there's legislation in place with vermouths on the level of sugars you can have. I mean, basically all of Europe as well. But they say, like, if it's this much sugar content, it's blank, blank, blank. But they have that Arnase wine is just a very drinkable wine to begin with. So this drink's like a Sauvignon Blanc with a lot of botanicals in it, basically.
What are your thoughts on this?
So I wouldn't use this for a Manhattan.
Well, it's a white vermouth anyway, so
Right.
you want to do like your Vesper cocktail, like the traditional James Bond one, your regular kind of martini, but not
there
do it
you go.
dry.
Yeah.
Do a white Negroni, a white Boulevardier.
Yeah.
It has like a Lillet Blanc thing built in, so it kind of go Corpse Reviver, So there's a lot of playability with it, even mixing the two vermouths together, and also just drinking it on its own.
Have you done that? Have you mixed both of these together?
Oh yeah, they're so good. Yeah, we'll do that next.
That's fascinating.
With Addie's and Lexi's, they're selling both of the vermouths at $29.99 anyway. So, honestly, this is going to be better than a $29.99 bottle of wine.
Sure.
Also, 18% alcohol. So there's that. Are these our dump cups, or are we going to drink something separate from
No,
that?
Probably that's a whiskey.
Yeah.
Okay,
We'll get
so I
to.
guess we're going to finish what we have. in this
Love
glass.
that.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll know that for next time, so we don't pour more.
There's.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Oh, no. No.
Yeah, no, don't hold back.
Yeah.
So we're going to the red. The red is going to be 50% Dolcetto, 50% Cortese. There's no artificial coloring. It is sweetened a bit, but it's not going to come off as the wine sweetness like here. Different botanicals. So this now, instead of the white vermouth that tastes like Lillet Blanc built in, this is going to be a red vermouth with like a Campari built in.
The more you drink, does that mean the more your accent comes out? Because that was the first time the Jersey accent
I have a
was
Jersey-
shown.
I feel like, you know what it is? I was raised on television. My parents were both full-time employees. So I always feel like I talk like people on television.
Oh, okay.
Like tonight on Nightly News, But yeah, I sure hope so. I hope people know my roots. I have no shame. Born and raised in Jersey.
The way you just said off, really.
Off.
Yeah, it was evident.
Coffee, yeah. So very different. A lot more
Very
bitter notes are
different,
coming
yeah.
through.
Ooh, this is still it's still candied though,
But
on
now,
the nose.
but now you're talking about
But I'm getting like a sweet cough syrup in a good way, though.
yeah. So now you're talking about active sugar versus
Sure.
wine sugars.
That's much thicker.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just different botanicals that are in there. It's different wines that are in there as well. And also, this has less alcohol percentage. More alcohol, thinner product.
What is that?
This is 18. This is 17.5.
Whoa.
Whoa, I know. Hey, it matters, man.
It, does, it clearly matters.
No,
It matters to
yeah,
me.
Yeah.
literally
But
made a
the
difference.
sugar content also creates viscosity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
Are
if you
there
want to
any-
save a little bit, I could put the white in there too if you
Yeah,
want.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
sure,
yeah,
we'll do
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Are there any, what's the legislation behind vermouth? Are there specific requirements for the distilling process or not the distilling process?
There are regulations that you have to fit, and there's a difference between vermouth, China, or Chinoa, aromatized wines, and Americano.
Okay.
So they have to use specific botanical. As far as I remember, this is going to be, this uses wormwood, Artissima absinthium, and it's its own bittering agent. And so depending on the bittering agent you use, it's your category,
Got it.
but also wine-based.
Oh, okay.
So like if you did everything you did here, but instead of wine, you're like, I'm just going to use vodka, it would be a different category.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Sure. This is very good. I like this.
The combo?
I like the combo a lot.
Yeah.
The straight Inferno was a little too sweet for me, but this to me, I like this combo a lot.
Yeah, I mean, room temperature vermouth is also not the way it should be
Sure,
appreciated. But for drinkability, absolutely. But again, refrigerate your vermouth, for sure.
It's a good move. It also helps chill the cocktail without diluting it with ice.
Right, and that's kind of my go-to.
Not saying I have a problem, but
right. More bang for your buck.
Yes.
Look, there's gonna be alcohol there, no matter if it's gonna be 6 ounces or 8 ounces. That's just hydration. That's the only difference is that.
Yes.
Yeah, just have a glass of water next to you.
We're just trying to help the headache, or at least the sinuses on the back end the next day.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty much the worst part of a hangover after 30.
Your histamine just like getting all
Sure,
screwed up with that.
the science behind it, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm talking I wake up, my sinuses hurt. It's
Yeah.
probably because I didn't drink enough water.
So I'm gonna give you
What's the tip?
two hacks here, and I have the third hack probably. So number one, my Mario secret to going out every single night and drinking for a living, if it wasn't my career, that wouldn't be the case. Vitamin C. So the people try to drink coffee and they try to sleep, and time is really the only thing that's going to do it. But here's the thing. Your liver is lazy. It breaks down simple sugars, complex carbohydrates, starches, and then alcohol. So what happens? I have a super fruity, super sweet drink. Well, my liver's like, okay, white sugar, you're in. Complex carbohydrate, okay, you're in. Liquor, sorry, you're not making it to the club. The liquor's pissed, starts kicking out the trash cans. And remember, like I said, the brain and the liver have the most amount of blood. So your alcohol in your blood is bouncing back and forth. So your brain's hurting, which runs the rest of your body, and then your liver's hurting too. And then the liquor gets to do it. That's why you need the time. But if you have your spirits kind of neat, it'll be much easier on your system because you won't have all those sugars ahead of time. So what you want to do is, I guess you have the vitamin C cleans your blood. So by the time that liquor gets to the liver, it's much more easy to process, and you have less of a hangover. So I take usually 1, 2 if it's a crazy night of emergency packets because they have B12, they have vitamin C, they clean up your system, and you feel right as rain. So all my friends and family have borrowed that. That's after. And sometimes you're like, oh, this is going to be one of those nights I'm not going to remember to have a glass of water before bed, so forget that. Then there's activated charcoal. Activated charcoal is supposed to absorb the alcohol in your system. And so what you do is you take it like an hour before you drink, and then every hour after that you take it. And then you'd stop an hour or two, and then you would take your emergency packet if you're going to do both. It works, but you feel very bloated. You're retaining a lot the next day, which usually the vitamin C just helps me kind of just pee it out of my system. So there's that. I mean, hydration's always important. You can use coconut water instead. It provides more hydration than regular water. And then you can also, the things we eat when we're drunk, you should flip them. Before you go out drinking, you should be having your pizza and your mozzarella sticks because they get absorbed, broken down with the carbohydrates when they go to the liver. And then you should be having steak and bacon after. But we're usually like, oh, let's go out to a steak dinner. We'll drink, and I'm craving, disco fries at the end of the night. And if we flip that, you'll feel so much better the next day. It's easier on your system breakdown because remember, there's alcohol in your system. Having the steak and the bacon is just fat content, and it'll break down a different way than having your liver to do extra work on the sugar. So there you go.
Anytime you can tell me to eat more pizza, I'm all
Yeah, there
for
you
it,
go.
so.
Yeah. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's the only way.
Our Saturday literally just got planned for
Hell
us.
yeah,
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
I want a whole day of drinking where it's like, okay, have this before a meal, have a digestivo, there's like breakfast things you can have. So
Have you ever done that, like planned your whole day around alcohol?
that is something that is
He just admitted it.
no, that's something that I've been planning for years.
Oh,
like a breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Was it happening?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll invite you guys.
Please
I'll let
do.
you know.
Please.
So I have two things. I have a breakfast, lunch, and dinner that I want to do based off of alcohol, how you should have things in that order, and also a marathon.
Oh, yeah.
Because like you should always finish your marathons with beer because you rebuild the electrolytes, you get your carbohydrates, and there's silica in there. So any minor fractions you got will be built up with the beer. So spirits wouldn't work. Or it's really just like how much you have to drink to even do a marathon to begin with is really the other argument.
Hold on, is
But
that
there's
why at the end of marathons they go to breweries?
Well, there's also 5Ks that are designed where they give you a beer at the end.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is that why?
You can I mean, the best thing to have before a race would be a Gosa because there's a lot of salinity in it, and the more you retain water, the more hydrated you can stay during your race. But you want like you could the night before you'd had big carbohydrate like dark stouts because the carbohydrates give you the energy for the next day. Like how much time do we got on this
Yeah,
thing?
right.
We're two SKUs in. Hold on.
So after the wine and the vermouth and everything like that, when did the scotch and like the single malt aspect come into play?
Yeah.
For us and or historically.
Yeah, for you guys. And historically, if you know.
Of course he knows.
Yeah, of course I know. For us, it's always been the way that the book. I did inherit some things when I came into the portfolio, and those are making their way out. And I'm building up something a little bit stronger and that makes sense and being unique. I do need things that fit categories. So there's always people looking for the next best Scotch. There's always people looking for the next best bourbon. But you can burn out that bridge very quickly because I'm not the only one looking for another bourbon or another Scotch. So I like having something as a placeholder, and that makes sense. But for me to have 20 of them, I'm competing against myself. You know, our consumers are based on getting wines. I'm focused on getting an international market. So I do have the Glen Turner, which is our single malt Scotch, but I do have the Moon Harbor, which is our single malt French whiskey. I have Conic, which is a single malt Irish whiskey. And then I have another brand, Nassau, coming on board, which is a single malt German whiskey.
Ooh.
And then eventually I'm looking to bring on a brand for Spain, maybe a brand for Italy, because I do love the craft market, and that's where I got my chops. But we're an international company.
Sure.
We have international contracts, and we are able to bring in some things that maybe other people aren't just because of shipping alone. But we have containers coming every day from Italy and from Spain and from France. And so I want to bring those things in, and that's my edge, right? Like, so great. You are a big distributor, and you've bought up every single distiller in Kentucky. Great. I'm going to be the only guy that has XYZ of the single malt Scotch. Mind you, everybody in the world drinks single malt Scotch. So, you know, that means technically anybody can make it. It's a matter of who incorporates what they incorporate. So like Glen Turner, it's actually a brand that's been around since the 80s and 90s. It's made at the, I think I'm allowed to say that. Made at the same distillery as Glen Moray. When you go on their website, you see the Glen Moray stills. Like there's like,
okay.
It says their name on it, so I should be okay. So we have two. We have the Heritage and we have the 12-year. So if you go to Addie's, the 12 year is going to go for $39.99, aged 12 years exclusively ex-bourbon. And then we have the Heritage, which is aged about 8 years ex-bourbon, but they finish it in port cask. And so what you get is what a lot of big houses are doing. Glenmorangie, Glenlivet, they're doing a lot of NAS, non-age statement single malt scotches because, hey, why wait 4 more years when you could finish it? Because you'll never replace time. Time, whether it's an American or an international spirit that's aged, is really going to be the big influence. Just like you can make a bourbon in 24 hours. You can put staves, you can microwave it, you can vibrate it, whatever, and it'll be as jet black as this bottle. It just won't taste good.
Sure.
What we breathe in is O2. Oxygen, O, is very reactive. So in your barrel, you have the vanilla molecule chain. O comes in, it goes chop, chop, chop. So then you go, oh, this is coconut. This is cinnamon. This is, like baking spice. And so you have now 3 different new flavor profiles thanks to oxygen, while the other vanilla one's still floating around that hasn't been broken up yet. You'll never replace that. What oak has oak sugars, it has tannins, but that doesn't make a whiskey at the end of the day. So you never replace time. But if you incorporate something like port, sherry, wine finish, you get to have more nuances and more notes in there that would never be present in a regular distillation, regular fermentation, regular aging in your cooperage. So this could be younger expression, but we get a nice pop of port in here.
So, not to sound pretentious or anything, Michael, but I was in Scotland, and I went to Lagavulin, and I was talking with Ian MacArthur, the head
very
distiller.
nice. Yeah.
Awesome guy, and he was telling me an interesting topic with the environmental conservation that's going on in the United States. There is there's always been a will for us to not necessarily cut down more trees. And not cutting down more trees would mean potentially in the future us changing bourbon laws to account for non-first-time new char oak barrels, which in turn would destroy the Scotch market and a lot of single malt markets because they rely a lot on bourbon casks to go over there. Have you heard of that, or what is your perception of that? I found it super fascinating because, we hear it all the time of environmental conservation. We're losing trees and all that stuff.
How old do you guys think bourbon is?
Oh, Jesus. It's got to be 500 years old.
Well, Old Forester was one of the first.
Yeah, but that's legally.
Yeah, correct. But that's like, so if you predate the known story of bourbon, corn was...
It's got to be 1,000 years old.
Well, I would say I think it's going to revolve around corn. So 16, 17
Okay.
hundreds.
Okay.
1200.
Okay. Bourbon, as we know it, as we define it, 1964.
Right.
1964. What happened was
Yeah, but like that's the bourbon story.
that's
but
the
like,
bourbon story,
right?
Yeah.
But before that,
But the thing is, what the brands are following nowadays, that
Yeah.
they're pumping all their money in, and regulation for new cooperage, 1964.
it's ridiculous.
What happened is you have World War One. Stills are broken down, they're used for parts, or they make fuel.
Okay.
World War II, same thing happens. Korean War comes out in 1950s. Oh, so someone gets a bright idea. Okay, if I buy up all the whiskey in the U.S., then I'll be the only one. They're going to break down the stills for the Korean War. And then, well, actually, what happened between World War I, Prohibition, and World War II is a lot of whiskey makers forgot really the process. It generationed out. And so he goes, great, I'm going to buy up all the inventory. And then when the war's over, I'm the richest bastard in U.S. Korean War comes, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Nothing happens to the distilleries. Well, now you're looking at somebody that has 60 to 70% of all the inventory in the U.S.
Which is MGP. No, I'm just
So
kidding.
yeah, exactly. Here's the origin of MVP. And so what happens is, and this is historically documented, he invites a bunch of senators to his house. They all leave in brand new cars. 1964, legislation for bourbon is at least 51% corn. So if you had 50% corn, you're out. Brand new charred barrels. Has to be aged in the U.S., like all government, all this protected stuff. But the thing is, the lumber lobby got in for the new char barrels every single time. So that guy had all the inventory, and the lumber lobby's like, can you help me out? And he's like, yeah, sure. So 1964, and again, we had the bicentennial about 10 years later. Bourbon becomes a national spirit. Why? Because the senators are all backing it up. You never see a senator back up vodka or gin or anything like that. But this is a national spirit. We have designation. You can't make it anywhere else in the world. You can have Alaskan and Hawaiian bourbon. Some people don't think it's only Kentucky. It's not. It's anywhere in the U.S. And
Thank
so,
you.
Oh, yeah.
The amendment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So with bourbon, it's like, yeah, bourbon as we know, it's really only been around 70 years. And that's because of legislation. It's war, politicians, or excess of whatever. As long as there's deep pockets to be had, it'll redefine anything you do. That's why we have issues with mezcal and tequila and bourbon. Mezcal was just a definition of any agave distilled spirit in Mexico. But then someone's like, well, we can make a lot of money if we just say it's from here. And then the people in Mexico now have to call it agave distilled spirit. They called it mezcal for 200 years.
It's kind of crazy where that's like documented history, and it's great to know because I didn't know that it was just a bunch of senators hanging out trying to like hash it all out.
A guy who is rich just bribing senators to make it happen, and the lumber lobby. So when
Right.
you say new barrels, as far as I know, every time a tree is cut down for cooperages to make their barrels for American bourbon, other ones are planted. It's never a wash. And if you ever go to the Jack Daniel's distillery, you'll see it's surrounded by trees. It's not going anywhere fast. And so I'm not worried about the conservation of that. 90% of the barrels for Scotland are Jim Beam and Jack Daniels because it's new cooperage every single time. And you have to pass it off, and they get broken down to staves. They get shipped overseas. They get built up again, and they make those barrels a little bit bigger. So we use 53 gallons. They use 63 gallons because the angles still make you have it a little bit bigger. So I'm really not worried about it because Scotch has had no problem surviving. We do have categories of used barrels, like corn whiskey is not allowed to use new barrel. They're only allowed to use used cooperage or uncharred cooperage. And also, like the brandy we have in the U.S., the rum we have in the U.S., that's all used cooperage. That still kind of exists. But as far as I know, I'm almost positive all the big houses are planting trees to make sure that they have sustainability for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's a really big country, and we only see so much, but we do have regions we focus on. So Michigan has a lot of white oak, cold climate. The colder it is, the tighter the rings, the more flavor. And then you have the Ozarks. I think is that Missouri or something like that?
Yeah, it's Missouri.
They use a lot of that oak as well. And also international. The reason Scotland and all those countries have to use our cooperage is they're small. It's a small island. And they, the English tried to conquer every country on the planet. And so all that wood went to boats, and now they got nothing. And that's on you guys. And also not every type of oak is applicable. And not, you're allowed to use oak for American cooperage. It doesn't specify American oak. It doesn't specify white oak. You can't actually use French oak barrels. But the thing is, to get a brand new 53-gallon charred American oak barrel, maybe it's like $600. But to get the same thing from France would be $1,700. So obviously I'm going to use American.
Yeah, and the other element too, which is what we found out in Ireland, is the roads are so narrow because a family owns the land that goes right to the road. And the country owns the road, and then everything outside of it is private. And it's owned by a family because it's all farmland. And when it's an island, you don't have that much room. So you can't just, like, take it back when it's privately owned.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the other massive key to it where, yes, I used it for boats, of course, for, like, conquistadors and all the craziness. But it's also because then the families were like, I'm going to buy this lot, keep it, and then, you know, use it for farmland. And it completely changed the landscape of both Scotland and Ireland, because now you have right-hand drive, really small, really narrow cars driving in what we call one lane, they call two-lane roads, and you're like stressing out driving around, and it's because literally it's a stone wall next to the road. There's no shoulder. It's lane and then the stone wall and then private land, and they own it all. And it's just super narrow roads because the government can't buy it back, which they could potentially. I mean, if the government, which they won't, but it's a huge cash cow. Like, spirits in general is a massive cash cow, and
it's
I don't
paying
know,
Scotland's bills. If Scotland stopped making
100%.
scotch, they would probably fall off the map.
100%. And even look at like Greece, where they had their massive financial tank. They still produce a lot of things. Like wines are huge there.
Oh, their wines are incredible. Yeah,
amazing. Yeah, I mean, Santo Wine is one of the best wineries that I've ever experienced in my life. So you can still buy it at Addie's. Free shout out. But it's fascinating that that's an option, and then you realize that there's so many intricacies that go behind it, and at the end of the day, like, people just want spirits.
Yeah.
And then the countries are sitting there, they're like, okay, booze and tourism pay every bill we've
and the more
ever
you can
had.
export, the better you can do it.
And the pandemic proved it, because then you see those same countries being the first ones to kind of like loosen it and just like, hey, come back.
Yeah.
Because like we need money.
Yeah, Italy was at one point, it's like, we'll pay you to live here for a year.
Correct. Yeah.
Have you guys ever had Metaxa?
No.
No, what
It
is
is
that?
a Greek liqueur, but they make it with rose hips. It's totally solid. It's delicious. It's like, it definitely brings out the degenerate in you. It's a little bit sweetened, but it's like a rose hip version of like a chartreuse or another liqueur like that. There's like a 3, 5, 7 star. So every culture has their distillate. They have something that makes sense. Some take a little bit farther, higher ABV. Some don't. But literally, like, any country that like, oh, okay, this botanical grew off a rock on the side of the road. Okay, I'm gonna add it to neutral spirit and then add sugar, and everybody's got one.
It's crazy. My honeymoon was in Greece. His was in Scotland.
Oh, nice.
And there was a winery at the island that we were staying at. And
Which island?
It was Falangandros.
Okay,
So
I went to Zakynthos and I went to Crete, I think.
Nice.
And then like Athens, obviously, but that was like one
Right.
day, and I nearly get robbed. So I was like, okay, I'm ready to book.
Makes sense. Yeah, we went Santorini, Falangandros, Santorini, and stayed at different hotels each time. And the Falangandros had a winery that was family owned, and we went there for just a tasting, get a flight, watch the sunset, relax. After we like hung out all day on the beach, very, very hard day. And the guys running the winery were like, we're working tomorrow. Like, we're gonna bottle
Harvest?
Like we're harvesting, like we're popping barrels, like you can come in and like work with us. And I'm literally looking at my wife and she's like, it's the honeymoon, like, please don't work. And I was like, when else in my life am I ever gonna work for a Greek winery? Timing didn't end up making sense. I had to go to breakfast, but it was
I had to stay married.
yeah. So I was like, it's fine, I'll pass it up.
I traveled around. I wish I knew the name of the winery. I traveled around one of the islands, and we just like, oh, winery's open. We went in like, hey, can we try the wine? And they're like, we're actually not open. They invite us into their house. The grandmother's there watching the kids. The husband is actually the one who replaces Byzantine artwork from like the 1400s. His floor had a rolling canvas where you pulled it out of the ground and it'd go up to 7 feet, and it'd be just one figure that he was replacing on a church domed ceiling.
That's insane.
And I'm like, and you make wine, and this wine's delicious. And his wife's like, oh, I wish I did more ballet in the city. And so like me and my ex at the time were like, come to New York City, like we'll take care of you, please. Like, you were totally awesome. So I mean, it's this incredible type of culture out there.
Yeah, the hospitality is ridiculous.
So speaking of other countries, we have French single malt here.
We do. I imagine the Glenn was
bring
good because I heard no complaints.
Bring it back to
I imagine
work.
this is
Listen, I'm a professional, Mike. So we have Moon Harbor, And I'm going to be 100% honest. A French single malt, I've had one and I was not very pleased. So I'm hoping that this is very
Does it
good.
start with a B?
agree.
It does start with
And
a B.
end with an any?
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have
What are your
any in your
thoughts?
cabinet? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you're
I'm
not a fan?
It's made my job harder.
Has it?
Oh, yeah. So the thing is, they had such a pull on the market. They spent a lot of money. The packaging is not bad.
Right.
No, that
Beautiful.
was our highest rating.
And also the price point is kind of aggressive. It's not aggressive. I should say the price point is not advantageous. And then I had it years and years ago before I knew it worked for a French company. And I was like, oh, this is not palatable.
Right.
And I've also, and
It
then I've
tastes
also,
like bubble gum. I was so off put.
yeah, I don't know what they do, and no disparity to them, because the more successful they are, the more successful I can
Sure.
be. I'm just not a fan. But every country has SKUs that work, and like hey, I like Glen Turner. I don't love Famous Grouse. Like there's
Right.
there's always going to be the bad seed in the bunch. I think this makes a
Throwing
little bit
Famous
more
grouse
sense.
right under the bus.
Yeah, there you go. Kill that bird. No, so like Moon Harbor is going to be at Addie's. We're actually only getting 500 cases to the U.S. So
Oh,
this is
wow.
this is probably the only bottle open in New York State right now. It's gonna be $42.99. Like gift box and all that BS, but really it's the quality of spirit. No, I mean like look.
Well, right, yeah, it's kind of the
If you
same.
can't drink it, I can't sell it, right? So this is what makes sense. So the region of Bordeaux is called the Aquitaine. And so they actually grow 100% of the malted barley there in that region. The distillery is in an abandoned World War II Nazi submarine bunker. They built 3 fake roofs on it. So if one of them had gotten bombed, it would collapse onto another fake roof and they'd be fine. There's 3 docks there.
That's awesome.
It's so they take 100% malted barley grown exclusively in Bordeaux. It's distilled in the port of Bordeaux. So not that anybody can see it, but there's something called the Port de la Lune. The flag of Bordeaux is 3 crescent moons, and there's even like a little marker showing you where that bunker is.
And the bunkers where they built the subs.
No, the bunkers is where like subs would be hubbed at.
Docked?
It would be docked, and they would keep a
Okay.
lot of oil drums too, whether they go to the submarines or to the tanks.
Okay.
So they had like they didn't use all 3 docks. It was like for like storage and stuff like that. 100% malted barley, distilled right in the heart of Bordeaux, and they age exclusively in Bordeaux Premier Grand Cru casks. So if you guys are familiar with single malt scotches, you're only allowed to use a maximum of 700 liters on the barrel size. In the U.S., you could have a 10,000 gallon cask as long as it's charred. For this, they use 225 liter sauterne casks. Smaller barrel, more surface area, quicker turnaround time. So you're getting good color, even though it's 5 years only. And it's all sauternes. So it's going to be unlike anything you had. Most people do ex-bourbon to start off with, or ex-scotch, or ex-wine, or something like that. And instead...
And this is $43.
Yeah,
Which is
$42.99.
fascinating.
Oh, no, it's a total gift. But here's the thing. So the company I work for, Monsieur Touton, is owned and ran and started by a gentleman named Guillaume Touton. His sister-in-law was the one that got them hooked up with the bunker. They said, we want a distillery in downtown Bordeaux. They're like, great, rent's $30,000 a month. So they basically just laughed at them. And they go, look, we got this 80-year-old building that no one has touched. Would you be interested? And they're like, yeah, sure. They're like, it's right on the port. They're like, great. Because they can get their grains shipped in easier, ship out product easier. They go in there. The jackets, the boots, all that Nazi stuff is still in there.
No way.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, they burnt it, right? And then it's like, if I go to French eBay, what's on there? And so they have honored the agreement because we got them the owner of the company got them the facility, but they have German, Italian, Spanish tour guides because in Europe it's such a draw because that bunker hasn't been open that 80 years. So it's one of the only ones that exist around. And also, there's a distillery there. So they make about 5 or 6 SKUs now, and they have some really interesting stuff. And they're like, no, you get the one. And I'm like, okay. So they gave us 3, and we're like, great, we want these 2. And they're like, we can't do the 2. We used to do 1. So this is my favorite. 100% malted barley, all sauterne, 5 years aged, right in Bordeaux. And it's just really special. It's unlike any other single malt you've had. And
100%. This is 100% aged in sauterne from
Yep.
start to finish.
The only thing. No bourbon, no Tennessee whiskey, no nothing, just sauterne. They want it as Bordeaux as possible. They want to respect and appreciate the region for what it is.
This tastes like wine, but with that like whiskey kick. This is unbelievably good, and if you've ever had a wine finished whiskey, this doesn't compare. Like this is a wine whiskey.
This is the technically third Sauterne product I've had in my life.
Okay.
To me, Sauterne has a literal taste to it,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
where you can smell it and then you can taste it and you're just like, is Sauterne?
Yeah.
Like, is there Sauterne elements in this? Like, it's got it, and it's just such a nice candied note. We did a single barrel that was it was an Irish whiskey finished in a Sauterne barrel.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then
That's probably awesome.
it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was 114 proof. It was incredible. Yeah. Addie's actually still has out of 318, we're down to 7 total bottles.
Jesus. Okay.
So, not saying, just saying. And then if you're...
Is there 7 listeners out there?
Yes. And if you're in the state of New York, they can ship it right to your door.
Oh,
but,
beautiful. Yeah, there you go.
And then the Glenmorangie Sauterne.
Yeah.
Yeah, Glenmorangie Sauterne finish was amazing. And then this.
Probably $1 million too. So.
No.
60.
It was 60.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Okay.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, I would be fine with both in a collection between that and this.
Yeah.
This is super good.
This is just a full sense of place.
What's the proof on this?
This is 45.8.
So 90-ish?
Yeah, 91.6.
But again, you have to remember this compared to our Irish whiskey and the Glenmorangie. This is 100% aged in a Sauterne barrel.
Yeah.
It's
From start to
it's
finish.
just
You have
fresh.
such
It doesn't taste like
great
Brenny?
tastes. No, stop it.
It doesn't taste like bubble gum. Yeah, nice job.
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
pat
yeah,
yourself
yeah,
on the
yeah,
back for that.
Yeah, send the check in the mail. Yeah. Like it's a sense of place, and it's not pretending to be a single malt Scotch. It wants to be a Bordeaux product through and through. So they're very serious about their craft. They have a bunch of people to support them. We're going to be the only ones to have them in the U.S., and I'm only getting 500 cases. So it kind of makes it special. I already have my order in, so I get mine when the time comes.
This is only at Addie's in New York?
Or Lexi's, because they have the 2 properties.
Well,
yeah,
right.
yeah. So as far as I understand so far, and then if people start getting the orders, but they're the ones to really jump on it and
Sure.
really understand it and respect it.
Good for
right
them.
away.
I mean, it's
The
just
price is going to be definitely the most affordable.
100%.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, they got to be. We should really talk to them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
hide this, like,
Yeah.
because it's gonna go
So
immediately.
it's only available beyond this one is only available overseas. We're the only U.S. person. So one of our accounts looked it up and they're like, "Oh, they're selling it for $100. I'm going to sell it for 100." And it's like, nah. It's like Addie's gonna be selling it for $60 cheaper. Like you're gonna look silly selling it at 100. You're gonna look like you're gouging.
right.
And that's not what I don't want. I want the people who get it to get a bottle or a couple bottles or give it as a gift and recognize it for what it is.
Sure.
And how awesome and special. And also, a submarine bunker is fantastic for aging because
Sure.
it's cool, temperature controlled. The walls were as wide as a bus of concrete. They had to spend about 10 days drilling so they can bring their equipment in. It's not like they had like nautical stuff to like go into the thing. So they had to drill it in so they can get their stills and barrels and all that stuff without having headaches. But they had to drill for ages. And so they really care about their product as well. And they did it they could have made this a fantastic product anywhere. They want to do it in Bordeaux. They want to do it in the Port de la Lune, and they're also French people, so they want to be respectful of their country. But mind you, there's nothing else out there. So my biggest compliment with this is when people say it's a great whiskey, it's a great for a French
Sure.
whiskey.
Yeah.
So, I'm very interested in other countries making their own single malt. I'm a huge fan of trying different like Scotch, Irish whiskey, French whiskey, whiskey from India, Japanese whiskey, like all that stuff. It really gets me excited because now you're starting to see different countries create their own legislation around that. Like Japan just did earlier last year, April last year, I think.
Yeah, so it's like now it's voluntary, and then I think 2026 or in that area, it'll become mandatory. So some people are on board and
Yeah.
they're doing it, and some people are just going to fake it because they're taking in, for those who don't know, taking in product from Scotland. Once it leaves Scotland, it's just considered whiskey, and then they're just rebottling it. Whether they proved it down or not, or whether they finished it in something else or not, they weren't doing the work, but they were bottling it. It was just like, Scotland was just being the MGP of
Sure.
Japan,
So Japan, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, it has to be with Mizunara oak barrels.
So here's the thing with Mizunara. Mizunara is fantastic. There's really great brands out there. Caillou really uses Mizunara well. There's a lot of big houses like Crown Royal, Endorse, and they do it for like 3 months and 6 months. It is a tighter grain of oak. It leaks more. It's also really not tangible. But Mizunara, to be awesome, has to be 6 to 9 years. But you get Palo Santo, you get sandalwood, you get all these nuances you never get. And I really like the sense of place of it, but you can't have all these brands pivot when they can just get barrels from California.
Sure.
And so, and like I said, the way it's like almost like a bonsai tree. Mizunara trees are really gnarly, so they're also really hard to like kind of bend. So I don't know if Mizunara is mandatory. I think it's an awesome influence on stuff, but to go to Japanese companies and be like, you can only use that, come on.
Sure.
Like Scotland doesn't use Scottish wood. They don't use other Scotch barrels to use that.
Right.
They bring in port from Portugal. They bring in Madeira from the island. They bring in a bourbon from the U.S. It's like, don't handcuff them. But again, they should use their own distillate with their own stills. They should use their own water sources, and I think they still have a quality product. I don't know about the Mizunara thing. I'm not against it, but the aging for it to be good,
Sure.
you're going to hurt the market by putting out 2-year-old Mizunara.
So do you think, in your opinion, what is the next country to create their own legislation? Is it France? Do you think it's India?
So the European Union already has its legislation. The way that Scotch works, it falls into that legislation with a few more things that are mandatory.
Right.
But Irish single malt, Scotch single malt, French, Spanish, and German single malt, they have to follow the EU standard. 100% malted barley, single distillery, aged 3 years. Scotch is just a very specific one to that country.
Sure.
So do I think they're going to create German Scotch or Spanish Scotch? I don't know. And they don't have to because they're still fitting the standards. But other countries like India, they could like India, Taiwan. There's a lot of Asiatic countries doing it. Their climate is perfect for it, like Korea and stuff like that. And they could probably tighten up legislation there. Just a little bit more snug. Some people respect the way that it has to be made and just do it exactly the same way Scotland does it, and some people don't. And so to protect your consumer, that's all what it's all about. What is it? 1896 is the, or 1897 is the safe bottled in bond act in the U.S. The U.S. government says your bourbon has to be in a government protected warehouse, has to be 50% ABV, has to be aged 4 years, has to be XYZ, and then 9 years later they go, you know what? We should take talcum powder out of white bread. Bourbon was the safest thing you could consume in the U.S. for 9 years because bread, milk, all these things were not regulated. They could add whatever they wanted to it. You're just poisoning people because it makes you more money. I'm sorry. Like, Wonder Bread doesn't make me as much money as bourbon does.
Correct. And Wonder Bread is literally a pastry.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, like we'll just call it what it is.
Yeah.
It's a dumpster fire.
So I think some other governments, once they tighten up regulation, they can really get throughput. Some countries are embracing different things. So great. India is really focused on whiskey. They're also the #1 buyer of like Johnny Walker Black and stuff like that. Japan, huge whiskey community. But, there's still sake and soju that have a place. Baijiu out of China. Don't forget your cultural heritage just to emulate something where the money is.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
Where you can make a better product of what you have and then have a global footing than being like, I'm Scotch from somewhere else. Spain is huge on gins. There are some really great distilleries out there for whiskey, but their main focus is on gin. Portugal is the same way. They focus on port a lot, but they have some distilleries out there now making some solid whiskeys. I get it. Follow the money, and you should have that, but don't forget your heritage because that is how you communicate to the rest of the world.
Sure.
We have our bourbon, and that's fine. And I want it to be that no, this is the influence that Japan or China or Taiwan or Portugal or France or Spain has on the U.S. consumer because we are a melting pot of a country.
Sure.
And also for the people that they have in house. So, like I said, do both. Don't forget don't forget where your roots were.
Right. So going to
let's keep moving.
What are the roots on this?
So this is the first time I've ever seen single estate on a bottle. Is this a new term that's coming out?
It's not one of those legally protected terms.
Okay.
But the focus on the single estate is actually because Filibuster is a Virginia distillery, family owned. All the grains come from one farm in the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia. So it's going to be corn, rye, wheat, and barley. It's aged a minimum of 4 years in brand new charred cooperage. They're actually on an 80-yard limestone bed. So all that great water that comes from Kentucky or comes from Tennessee is the same water in there. Having limestone rich or kind of base water lets you have a better expression of the acids and the fats that are present in your bourbon. So we are talking about bourbon. It's more than 51% corn in there. This is going to be cast strength, and it hides it really, really well. There's no specialty finishing going on here. And what's great about this is they also give you, fermentation time, the proof it went into the barrel. So this is fermented for 72 hours. So fermented for 3 days. This has 120 proof was put in, but this is a 110 proof.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So what happens is that your alcohol evaporates, and so the water volume stays the same. So it goes down. You have less volume, but you get different levels of extraction with how much water or spirits.
I think that's the first bottle I've ever seen that level of detail on. Like, it was bottled at this.
Yeah, agreed.
This
That's
is
a nice
fascinating.
touch.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
they really care. They know what they're doing. They actually used to have a liquor store, and they're just reached that point where like we can do it better. And it's 3 brothers and a dad, and the brothers are really much more involved. But it is just a solid spirit. It hides the alcohol way too well, and you can get something like this at Addie's, $49.95. American bourbon at cask strength for $50. I mean, killer.
That's so dangerous.
This got that. Is this high rye?
Yes, the rye is the second most mashed bill. Let's see. On
You can
this one-
taste that.
Yeah,
You can taste that high rye.
they do. If they're okay with that or not, it's 5% wheat or 5% malted barley, and then the rest will be more than 51% corn and then rye. But they just have the wheat and you always need malted barley for fermentation. So the wheat is really just to bring out some more of the character. Sometimes you just gotta. It's like the ice cube in your glass. You need to tone down some of it so you can let other parts shine.
Have you ever had a stressful day, not regarding work, but just like a day, and you go home and you're like, I'm gonna have a drink, just to kind of decompress from everything that I just experienced for the last like 13 hours.
Yeah.
You make the drink and then you sip it and you're just like, okay, I'm having a drink, in like an hour I'll feel better. If you have this after that same day and you take your first sip, it's just like, hey man, and it literally grabs you by the traps,
Yeah.
and it forces you into a chair,
Yeah.
and it tells you it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
The day's over with.
Super
like,
chill.
we're now having a drink.
Yeah.
This literally tells you it's time to have a drink.
Yeah.
And then the rest of nothing else matters. This is super smooth. It's hot in a good way.
Yeah.
And it reminds you like, hey man, I'm not going to destroy your esophagus, but I'm going to remind you that the day's over with and we're just going to survive together.
Yeah.
Me and you.
I'm only making you stronger.
Yeah, exactly.
And
like
it's
this
a-
is weakness leaving the body.
And it's a gear shift from the scotches. The scotches serve their own point. But this whiskey's almost like a cigar. Like, take the next 90 minutes off.
Yes.
You're just going to mellow out.
Exactly. This is needed on like, I don't know, a Tuesday in my world. I am so down.
I mean, it is Thursday, so
we're doing
this
good.
is needed on a
Yeah.
Thursday.
At
Friday
the age.
Eve, yeah.
Yeah.
Friday Eve.
But the thing is, it hides the alcohol so well, and they do everything themselves. It's not like MGP and then repackaged and relabeled. Honestly, not that there's anything wrong, but not everything out of MGP is gold. Like, there are brands that I'm like, what barrel did you pick? You're always good.
Right.
And then other ones, it's like, this is MGP, and I'm like, oh, I like MGP. I'm like, not that one.
Right.
Yeah. So
Does
but
this
them making
distillery
themselves
create
nice.
more products?
Yeah.
Other than this?
So I'm a huge fan of this one, the single estate, personally. Also, I like cask strength. They also make a bourbon that's dual cask, which means it's aged 4 years in new cooperage, but finished in red wine and white wine from Virginia wineries. They have a rye that follows the same format. They have one called the Boondogler, which is, it's not categorically anything. It's 40% corn, 40% rye, 10% malted barley. So they're not 51%. And then they age it in 2 white wine barrels, 2 red wine barrels, and a sherry barrel.
They literally found the fence.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm just going to ride this
Right,
thing.
yeah. Because a boondogler means to do something unnecessarily extra, just like a filibuster is. They always take too much time, and they're extra about that. So they wanted to make something that was affordable, that made sense. But the thing is, at the $49.95 price point, you're talking about something that's really much more accessible for your cocktails. So I want this quality, but I want to mix it with something. I would never mix this.
No, not at
Yeah.
all.
No. Oh, my goodness. That's an insult.
Yeah, so they wanted to make something that you could mix. So that's why they came up with that one. Some people can't handle cask strength. That's why they made the dual cask for the rye and the bourbon.
Sure.
What do those come out as? Are those 80 or around there?
Yeah, I think they're right on the nose for 80 or 90.
Yeah.
So they released a bottle and bond that we only got 10 cases for the state of New York. 5 years aged, 50% alcohol, following everything bottle and bond, 1 year extra. Gorgeous. And every year they're going to do a different release for that bottle and bond with a different colored wax. This one was like a white wax. It looked like the white Power Ranger. It was fantastic.
New York got how many?
10 cases.
Yeah, and Utah probably got like 640.
Not
Makes like no sense.
No. It was 10 cases for every state. That's how it worked out.
Okay.
They only had limited inventory on it, but it was so good. And so they submitted that for a competition. They won best bourbon outside of Kentucky. But that bottle and bond was, I mean, like, even if I brought it, it's like no one could get it anyway, right? So it's like, I'm not going to tease you guys.
Are they single barrel? This one is.
Yeah, that's why they call it the single
Yeah.
estate. But the other ones are going to be blends for the bourbon, the rye, and the boondoggle.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, sure.
But it's something special. The bottle of bond being aged like 1 year longer, having that 50% alcohol. Oh, it was gorgeous. Coveted.
That needs to be in the personal collection.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Talk to Addie's about how many cases are getting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Bring a Bic razors to get the hair off your chest if you have one of these bad boys.
So these last two products, they're a little bit more of a specialty, right?
Mm-hmm. We're talking about liqueurs, and where they make sense. Again, digestivos. We're talking about sugar content to aid digestion. You want to start your meal here. A combination of these two are going to give you an espresso martini. We're going to go one at a time, but they are very special in their own way. Okay. So first we have Wild Arbor. It is a plant-based, dairy-free, gluten-free cream liqueur. And so it's going to have the same flavor and aroma as like a Bailey's, but it's 2% more alcohol. It's half the calories. And what they do is there's viscosity to it. So when you're making espresso martini, you're going to get a lot of foam and a lot of stuff going on. But, there's a reason that Starbucks has 11 milks. There's either dietary, health, or religious restrictions for having dairy.
Yep.
And they're just trying to, it sounds bad to capitalize on that, but they're trying to hit a market that's being ignored. Because this isn't coming from Ireland in a container, hot and cold. What are they putting in there that's going to keep it preserved? So, like I said, more ABV, half the calories, and you don't have to have any kind of dairy issues, and you don't have to refrigerate it. So we're going to go into this. It's going to have that kind of chocolate, caramel, coconut, chocolate malt thing that Bailey's has. And what's really cool about it is like it's got body to it, but it's not sweet.
Why is it clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
Why?
Wasn't expecting
It looks
that.
like water.
Yeah, no.
What happened?
Yeah. So what had happened was so they take their neutral distillate, which is a sugarcane distillate. Like again, we're talking about Everclear, but being made from sugar instead of grains.
Uh-huh.
So that just means 95% distillation. That's only 5% of anything else. And then what they do is they cook oats. So when you make oatmeal and you get that gluey stuff on top?
Yeah.
They strain that so it still stays gluten free, but it creates viscosity and body. So the aromas stay in there.
What's the proof of this?
19.75. So 2% more than Bailey's, which is 17.
19.75.
ABV. Yeah, so like it'd be, was it 38?
So like 40 proof.
39.5. Yeah, 39.5.
That is so good. And to me, one of the interesting things about like this cream liqueur and stuff like that is a lot of people put it in a non-translucent bottle because looking at something creamy on the shelf at a liquor store kind of is off-putting.
And they probably separate when they're in the bottle.
Sure,
too.
yeah. But this is not you can see through it because it's clear.
You can see what you're getting,
Yeah.
yeah. And then that's the point, Like I said, you're cutting down the alcohol. You're not having that cream. You're not additives. And, of course, they plant a tree every time a bottle's sold, too, which is nice.
Can we? Okay. Yeah.
They do. I mean,
I understand. That's very nice.
Got to get that CO2 emissions offset. You got to
So-
get that credit, that tax credit.
You know what's crazy is the bottom is translucent. From a marketing standpoint,
Yeah.
it's genius.
Yeah.
Because you can see the bottom, and you're like, that's what it looks like. But then you taste the top of the bottle,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Because that's literally if it should be
Chocolatey.
flipped.
Yeah.
It should be flipped.
It's like almost like a Cadbury egg in a liqueur. It's creamy. It's rich. It's not that sweet. It tastes just like Bailey's, and you don't have to worry about being in the bathroom for a while. So that's really the big win at the end of the day. But you can incorporate this into your your espresso martini and other stuff. I would love to add it to whiskey just because there's already some chocolatey and some caramel notes in whiskey. They make two other labels. They have a cinnamon cardamom, which I love using with like a reposado tequila, taking those spice notes that are present in tequila, using cinnamon cardamom. It's not as much as chai. It's more closer to kind of big red, but not in a bad way. And then we have the cherry almond. Again, you can use all three of them for espresso martinis, but tiki cocktails. So where you can use, instead of using grenadine and orgeat, and people who have nut allergies, you can use a cherry almond, which is just the cherry flavor and the almond flavor. So you don't have to worry about any type of reaction.
Sure.
And you can do kind of like funky rum, funky agricole cocktails, and add body.
Sure.
And like I said, like I said, the sweetness doesn't overwhelm it, and they're all fantastic. But espresso martini is like the home run with this thing. It's like everybody's hooked to it. And someone's like, but Mario, why do people like espresso martini so much, especially after COVID? And I'm like, oh, because they would have coffee mugs for their Zoom phone calls and pretend to be drinking coffee, and there's booze in there. So like I think that's really what it is at the end of the day.
Don't give away my secrets.
Yeah, I said sorry. Sorry for those at-home workers.
Yeah.
I mean, Wild Arbor's solid. It's $27.99 at Addie's. Really accessible. It's more affordable than most of those other brands out there. And like I said, you can play with it in a lot of different ways, but this one is just like, it's a gimme. It's just super tasty.
So what about this last one now?
Yeah.
Griffo?
Ecuador?
No, Equator.
Equator, dude.
Jeez.
Come on, man.
Yo, chill. There was a
He's
glare.
had too much.
There was a glare, and we've been going hard.
Okay, so luckily there's
Equator.
caffeine actually in this, so it'll help Mike out here a little bit.
Maybe.
So
Probably not.
Griffo is actually Mike and Jenny Griffo. They're out of Petaluma, California. It's in Sonoma County. They're actually across the road from Lagunitas Brewery.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they make a lot of cool stuff. But this is Equator coffee that they use. Organic, fair trade, mocha java blend of coffee. And what they do is the same day the beans are roasted, they actually make them into cold brew and add it to their distillate. Equator Coffee is actually the
here we
first
go.
fair trade
Oh, yeah.
coffee roaster
Yeah.
in California, which
Yeah.
says a lot for California.
Well, now Derek's all excited, so here we go.
Love coffee.
It's 2 grams of sugar per ounce. Like a brand from Australia is going to be 7 grams. A brand from Mexico is going to be 11. 25% ABV.
How do you know that?
Oh.
Where did that come from?
You got to know your enemies, man. But it's so family, again, a family run thing. It's funny because they had to take the kid seats out of the minivan to put the bags of coffee beans in there, and they're like, it's the best mile drive.
I
to
didn't
the
know where
distillery.
you were going with that because I thought you
Yeah.
were going to be like, they got to take out the child care.
Yeah, they
It's
got
like,
to pay
what?
for this coffee. So 25% ABV, 2 grams of sugar, and it's Demerara, so no refined sugar in there. And then they also 4 milligrams of caffeine. So if you poured yourself an 8-ounce cup of coffee and an 8-ounce cup of this would be about a quarter of a cup of coffee for caffeine.
Oh, wow.
But it's dangerous. It smells just like a fresh cup of coffee poured out.
Hell yeah.
Again, it's a mocha java blend. And with the Wild Arbor, killer espresso martini.
Did you say what beans they were?
As far as I know, I don't know. I don't know if they're Java or if they're or the other ones. But it's Java because it's mocha Java blend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's organic, fair trade coffee beans. Again, the same day the beans are roasted, so it just smells like a fresh cup of coffee.
Smells so good. Dude.
Are you good over there?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I just
We
just
should
let
have
me-
started with this, bro. I would have stayed on here all day.
But they're solid. Like I said, Mike and Jenny are awesome people. My favorite story is I went out there. I met Mike, so Mike is a former physicist. He's science-minded. He actually has a Vendome still, but he drilled his own sensors into it. So if there's a distillation going on, he's like, yeah, okay, because it's off his phone, and he has to be really dialed in. So I go there and like, okay, I meet up with Mike at 5. Jenny's gonna have dinner for us ready at 7. I get there at 5. Me and Mike are still talking at 2 o'clock in the morning. Jenny's like, I just assume you guys are not coming over now because the kids are asleep. We're like, yeah. I go to basically an abandoned fairgrounds parking lot to a taco and burrito truck. I had the sea, land, and air, which is shrimp, chicken, and beef in a burrito that was the size of my arm, and horchata. 2 o'clock in the morning. Scariest thing I've ever done in my life. Fantastic. Mike is such a whiz. We just lost track of time and just like, have you had this? You do that. I would do this, because it's like not everybody can speak that language. Sometimes a lot of distillers are mad scientists, and you see that in breweries and wineries. They're just almost antisocial. Mike's not like that, but I could be like, Mike, come on, you got to do it this way or that way or this. Or he's telling me like, Mario, like if this is the only way you can do this process. And so we learned a lot from each other and we had a great time. But of course, it ends at a taco truck in an abandoned fairgrounds. So you live and you learn sometimes.
That's the most California thing ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Nothing was open. I mean,
No.
everything closes early in California. It's
Yes,
weird.
it's really sad.
Yeah, so I was like, all right, I guess it's me and a bunch of construction workers having our chat on burritos.
So you would recommend this with the Wild Arbor for espresso martini?
Yeah, so the Griffo goes at $29.99. So again, super aggressive on the pricing, American made, doing it with the Wild Arbor. So pick up both. You're still gonna sit, like at a really comfortable price point. But with the two of them combined, you're gonna end up making 25 espresso martinis. Like, unless you guys, it's like 17. But But if you do two
Hell
of this and
yeah.
one of this, you can drink them all day long, and they're really pleasant. I always had people like, yeah, I make an espresso martini, but it's more bitter, or it's more sweet, or it's more blank. It's like, yeah, but I drink one. Like, no one eats 2 cheesecakes in a row.
Right.
Like, you could always be more decadent, but like, how do you get versatility so everybody in the party's happy and they're going to be drinking and having a good time and not being like, I'm so full, there's so many damn
That's so
calories.
true.
Is that a challenge? 2
Let's
cheesecakes
do
in a
it.
row?
2 cheesecakes in a row.
That's
yeah.
next episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's round 2.
Yeah, we'll ferment it and we'll distill it. And
I
then
mean,
we'll have cheesecake
not to
this
say
way.
that Restaurant Depot could sponsor the episode, but
Yeah.
like that could be a thing.
You want like the marble cheesecake, the raspberry white chocolate, the regular, and there's always a variety
Yeah,
tray.
absolutely.
All at one time.
So, out of all of your products that you offer, what is your best seller? Like, if somebody wanted to understand you as a person and your company, what would you say is a good representation of what you sell?
That's a really good question. I definitely think the Moon Harbor, we've only got it less than a month. I mean, I think we're at less than 2 weeks, 10 days now with this product. I think it's going to crush. I think this is going to be like the next it whiskey. I mean, thanks to its limited availability. I think what we really focus is on people who are passionate about their craft. I can talk to Mike until 2 o'clock in the morning. I can talk to Shravan and his brothers at Filibuster at any time of the day about how much they care about that product and what goes into it and using their local resources. Moon Harbor, focusing on that Bordeaux, focusing on bringing the grains and their distillate. Having somebody who had to work and make their ends meet at a bigger corporation to kind of go out on their own and branch out. I bring a lot of passion to this. I didn't cut any corners when it came to education. I know what I'm talking about. I mean, don't hold it against me. Don't look up anything I said today. But I like to think that I know what I'm talking about. And even if I'm lying, at least I'm convincing. Sure. I'm really passionate about what I have here. So it's just a matter of that. I'm bringing in people who are passionate. I don't need a brand that says, good luck. We made X. Our job is done. I love bringing in people who roll up their sleeves and know what it takes to work a brand, motivate a brand, understand your competition that's out there, and how you can really make a difference. And I know that I could bring on 20 more bourbons. There's a new bourbon company every day.
Right.
I could bring on a million other scotches. What I want to bring in is things that make sense with people who know how to back the product because they care. I don't want to have to explain to the people who make the product how they make their product. And I've seen that before, and I've had people approach me, and it's like, oh, this is just a money laundering scheme? Or are you just trying to get rid of $500,000 and just be like, oh, I have this money, I'm losing business on this distillate, so I gotta write it off of my taxes? No, we have people who are like, look, my blood, my sweat, and my tears go into the product, and luckily with almost every single one of these brands, that's the case.
Is there a way for if people find something on the shelf to see if it came from your company?
Some of them do say imported by Monsieur Touton. They all necessarily don't. Like this one does. I mean, stuff in the U.S. doesn't get imported by us. We're not actually allowed to put that stuff on there. I know this one, we do have it on there as well.
But is there like a social media or something that
we have our own
tracks all this?
website.
Okay.
We do have a Monsieur Touton Instagram page. We do have a website you can go to. Very well done. If you like spirits, you can always visit me in the office on 27th and 7th, right by FIT, and Oscar Wilde, and Patent Pending. Fantastic cocktail bars. But I really have to focus on myself at being the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain and making sure these brands work. Because if they don't work, I don't work. So it's not really about Mario Delgado or Monsieur Touton. It's about how does Wild Arbor or Griffo or Filibuster or Moon Harbor end up on your shelf set? And why does it matter to you? Do you know what you're drinking? Why are you drinking it? Because, great, do you drink Wild Arbor because I talked about it on this podcast? Or you're like, no, I stand behind this. I don't want dairy. I do this for this reason. And, I'm not here to create demand or covet products. I'm here to educate you. Because if you don't like this, I want you to know why you don't like it, because that's what went into it. Sure. And like I said, it can't just be about me. There are people who are passionate behind that. That has to make sense too.
And it's a legitimate family, or like it's legitimate people behind the brand, which I think we're very spoiled in Western New York by having I'm not getting paid to say this. Like I'm literally being honest. If you go to different liquor stores and you talk to the store owners, they might not have that same background knowledge, whereas like Addie's and Lexi's do, because their staff literally understands each brand and then the story behind it, because they have that relationship with the reps that help provide the products for the shelf. So having that background, all you have to do is just, if you're local and you want to get one of these, go to Eddie's or Lexi's and say, I want to support, you guys, and then what SKUs do you guys have? Because I literally just liked the fact that A, you carry it here, but B, I want to try this because it was on the show. And then, the third point, not just stopping at 2, but the third point is I want to, really help the people behind the individual brand. And I was in, the market for a new vermouth. I was in the market for a new single malt. I was in the market for a new cast strength. And I just want to try something different. I want to try the fact that this is clear and it doesn't make sense because it's like a cream
It messes
liqueur.
with your brain.
Yeah, 100%. So like all of those different intricacies are met. And, obviously your time is extremely valuable. So thank you, because we're definitely not within the normal interview time range. But it was just fantastic to understand everything behind this.
Like I said, I know I strayed from the path a little bit, and we diverged a little bit.
No, but thank you for that.
But this is the sense of alcohol, right?
Yeah.
The reason it comes in a 25 or 23 ounce bottle is so you could share it.
Yeah.
Whether there's 3 of you, whether there's 15 of you, it's a sense of community. It loosens your tongue. You're like, these are my joys. These are my fears. These are how we work together. And that's really the role of alcohol, because we could have all of us have a Manhattan in front of us and be like, what do you do for work? What do you enjoy? And if I walked onto the street and act a stranger, what do you do for work? What do you enjoy? I'd probably get stabbed or slapped. But alcohol has this kind of shield dropping effect where people are willing to make themselves vulnerable even with strangers that doesn't exist outside of these 4 walls of a bar or in your home or in your backyard or something like that. And like I said, it is part of our history of bringing communities together. This stuff doesn't exist unless there's somebody who has fire, who runs a still, who can copper metal, who can make barrels, who can have a farm that grows all the extra grains.
Who can drill through a bus.
Yeah, exactly. You can drill through a bus worth of concrete.
Yeah.
So it's a sense of community that brings us together, and that's the type of thing I bring away with alcohol. And like I said, it's not something that should be coveted. You never I'm going to make sure I have a conversation with Derek and Mike that no one else will ever hear, because it's the most special conversation ever. I think it's a sense of how do I become more of a member of the community where the digital age has taken that away from us? And there's not something that you can really just be like, people just drink and they just fight on the internet, or they'll do it sober. I like to view alcohol as that: take down the shields, take off the armor. Where are we as people? Where do we meet eye to eye? And it's over a bottle of booze.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So social media, website, where are you guys at?
www.mtouton.com, and I think the Instagram is Monsieur Touton. But if you go on the website, you can see the portfolio. I think it's broken up into spirits. You can see what's available, what's out there. And you can always just, reach out. I'm mario.delgado@mtouton.com. You can always reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer questions or bore you to death. Anybody I can harangue and get to talk about spirits for an exuded amount of time, I'm more than happy to do that. But I'm always around.
Yeah.
I'm here to help. I'm here to educate, because it's like we don't get farther the less we know.
Sure. Well, anytime you're back in Buffalo, man, let us know, because we'll more than welcome to bring
All
you
right,
back
we'll come
on.
back in the fall. We'll do some really old cognac.
Absolutely.
We'll do some really funky stuff, and then I have some stuff on the horizon that I think you guys will get a big kick out of that.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, go check them out. Go over to their social media, and also any of these brands that we talked about. I'm assuming that they
Their
have their
website,
own social
Wild
media,
Arbor,
yeah.
Griffo, Filibuster, Moon Harbor, Glen Turner, and Nine to Dante. They all have social media pages. Some are a little bit more exuberant than others, but what they save on social media, that's in the product.
Sure.
So it just focuses on the goods.
Yeah, and you guys know Mike and I, we don't really talk about products that we don't like. I would have any of these on my shelf.
Agreed.
So we'll probably have reviews on some of them coming up. So if you're excited about that, go subscribe and make sure that you're here. But honestly, Mario, thank you so much for all your time.
Oh my
This has
God,
been awesome.
anytime. This is such a treat.
Yeah,
I really
for sure.
appreciate it, guys.
Awesome.
And thank you to the Draft House for having me.
The Draft
Yes,
House.
thank
Yeah, okay.
Thank
Speak
you.
easy at the Draft House, right?
Yeah, it was
Daddies,
a
like
little bougie, but we're here.
A little bushy, but we're
They
here.
almost didn't let us in.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much for your time, man. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Cheers.